President Donald Trump has for the 30th time said that he stopped the war between India and Pakistan. While there is no surprise since he wants that UN Peace Prize desperately, it's obvious that Trump is trying everything he can to get a trade deal with India. His pressure tactics are five-folds: cornering India on the Russian oil imports, signaling US is increasing business with Pakistan, constantly needling India on mediation with Pakistan, calling India a dead economy, and even taunting India on future oil imports. In this quest, what Trump doesn't realize is that he has completely changed how he is perceived by India. India's response to Trump's tactics has been calm and forward-looking, and we have refused to give in to his tantrums and maintained that national interest remains top priority. But to what extent will Trump go on, in fact, to get his deal? Will the next round of negotiations see some progress towards the India-US deal, or are we going to hit further roadblocks? That's what we discuss with some prominent names. Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya, President of the CDPR, with us on the show. Dr. Sharath Kohli, Senior Economist, joins us on the program as well. Last but not the least, Gautam Mukherjee, Senior Journalist, with us on the show as well. Dr. Kohli, I'll begin with you. Well, we've discussed this before as well, but let's try and look at a crystal ball now. Trump is pretty predictable. He tries to be unpredictable, Dr. Kohli, but in that unpredictability, he's become very predictable because we know he's going to say one thing and do another. Is that something that is also expected when it comes to India? We obviously have a trade deficit with the United States, but the fact of the matter is that the Americans want to counter China. They do not want the Chinese to in fact creep up to $30 trillion. Which is not difficult for China in the next few years. They need India to become that impediment. They need India to become that backup. Do you think when it comes to Donald Trump, there is a huge distance between the lip and the cup?
Good evening, Vineet. Good evening to my fellow panelists and NewsX viewers. Well, I was, contemplating a peace prize for tariffs. So we could have a new prize around the world. Let's call it the tariff peace prize. We badly need that. But forget about the Nobel Peace Prize for the moment. He said he stopped 6 wars, and probably first a war happens, a war is created, and then of course it is stopped. So let's not get into that territory. Let's focus on the question you've asked. I think the deal will happen. That's my crystal ball says the deal will happen, as you rightly said. United States cannot afford to, have these kind of relations with India, what Donald Trump is doing. India has got a very strategic location. And India is the second biggest Asian giant after China. So it could counter China. I think America needs India. And it cannot afford to spoil relations with India in the manner in which Donald Trump has been dealing for the moment. Because the reality, as far as Donald Trump is concerned, I've seen it sinks in, but it sinks in gradually when he starts realizing, as you rightly said, he is unpredictable. But as you rightly said again, he is predictable in many ways. So what is the only constant in Donald Trump is the change. So that's what I feel. I think the flip-flop is going to happen. It may take a while. I think the Russian factor and the Russian oil is counting on his mind. The Ukraine war, he said, one of his aides said, I was shocked to hear what the aide said, that India is responsible for the deaths happening in the Ukraine because you're funding the war in Ukraine, in Russia. And, I completely disagree with that. I refute that because I think we are a sovereign country. We've got a right to deal with whichever country we want to, irrespective of what relations it has with another country. That's point number one. And the hypocrisy here is, and the irony of the situation is that US by itself has from January to July imported $2 billion worth of goods. Some of those goods are indispensable. There are no alternates available. One of them I can name is the fertilizer, which US wasn't able to find anywhere, and desperately the farming sector in US needed that fertilizer, and it was imported from Russia. So this is hypocrisy. You are trying to blacklist a country. You're trying to impose sanctions on a country. You're trying to threaten secondary tariffs on a country. And you are yourself and your own allies in NATO. They have been dependent on Russian energy ever since the war in Ukraine started. So what kind of sanctions are these? It's a sanction of convenience. When I need, there are no sanctions, but you want to impose it on some other person. So first of all, I think I completely refute what the aide of White House, whosoever that was, saying. I think President Trump is trying to twist the whole game forcibly in his favor. And a classic example is removal of Erica, the head of BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. when she said that 73,000 jobs only new jobs have been created as compared to, over 250,000 in the previous year. So there is a slowdown in the US. And I think it is improper and it is inappropriate for American administration or Trump administration to hide that slowdown. In my view, Vineet, I mean, my own analysis says that US is technically in recession. And this can be proved by several aspects. You look at the job creation there, look at the problem with the small businesses are facing. You look at the investment which is coming into US. Look at the real ground level inflation. Poor Jerome Powell, I really pity that Fed chairperson. He's such a disciplined person, such a sweet person, that he is. And, he's going to be axed soon because I don't think there'll be a rate cut in America. President Trump says everything is hunky-dory, we are doing very well, so please cut down the rates of Fed, which I don't think is going to happen because 9:2 was the weighting in FOMC a few days ago against rate cut, which categorically means that inflation right now, on record, it may be shown as 2-3%. But when you go to my friends in the US were telling me, when you go to the stores, you find that you get drained out of whatever you have in your pocket, and the same amount of goods that you carry home, which you used to carry earlier, you have to pay so many more dollars for that. So I think the situation of the US economy is not very good. $36 trillion of liability on US on a GDP of $29-30 trillion. He wants to make America great again. In the process, he is trying to drain out so much of economic wealth of America in more ways than one, whether by way of inflation. Once inflation sets in America, I'm sure you will see a hit on the US dollar. You're going to see exodus of investments from there. You're going to see other companies, other countries for that matter, who have invested in US Treasury. There's going to be a fear, there's going to be a frenzy amongst the investors in the US Treasury. It's going to cause mayhem. And, I don't know what he's up to, who are his advisors, who is he listening to, who's sounding him these economic policies, and why is he doing what he is doing, issuing letters to more than 60 to 90 countries, of tariffs everywhere. And just wait for August 8th, the first Qayamat Ka date, the deadline he's given to Russia that you stop the war, else, the usual petty style of Donald Trump. He's going to probably levy secondary tariffs after that. And probably India maybe, so that's my only concern. Coming back to what you said, we've come a full circle in what I described. If these secondary tariffs, Vineet, come, I think that will be an alarm bell as far as India is concerned. But otherwise, I really don't see any reason why this deal will not happen. There are so many goods which India is supplying right now. There's a long list in leather, footwear, toys, chemicals, plant and machinery, electronics, gems and jewelry. There's a very long list. And some of this stuff I came to know from America, from some of my friends, that people in America, in certain parts of America, certain pockets of America, they become so used to using these goods at the prices at which they are available in the shelves. That they will find it very difficult if they land up at 25% or after secondary tariff at 50%, 40%, whatever expensive. It's going to be very hard for consumers. So consumers are going to be, I think President Trump is completely delineated from the reality on ground. I'm just waiting for a couple of weeks to pass by when you'll see this inflation hitting the American economy very, very hard, Vineet. So therefore, for that reason, I see that there'll be a turnaround and the deal will happen. Der hai, andher nahi is what I would say as far as the deal is concerned.